Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Next War Poland. This is a game designed by Mitchell Land, based on a system designed by Gene Billingsley. This is published by GMT Games. This is a system that I really have enjoyed. I've only scratched the surface on this one. I've really not played as deep into it as I plan on. This is a really interesting system. It covers the what ifs of situations that really could happen. India, Pakistan, for example, Korea, Taiwan, and now Poland. These are not just thrown out there based on, hey, let's just have a modern warfare game. This is based on the current political climates in these regions, and I think they're really well thought out games. So this is pretty much, for me, is an insta-buy any game in this series. Even though like I said, I've only just begun to scratch the surface, this is a game I see myself playing for many years to come. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what it says here. Next War Poland is the fourth volume in the Next War series from GMT Games. This game moves the action from Asia to Europe and allows players to fight a near-future war in Poland as the Russians and their allies invade and NATO responds. A large portion of Poland is represented by the operational hex map, while the Baltics are represented by a strategic display, similar to Next War Taiwan. The Russians are not the behemoth of the Cold War, but they possess good material and a much better trained army than before. The Baltics, using new rules and mechanics, may fall quickly, although their forces may put up some resistance and make an appearance as reinforcements, while the front quickly establishes itself in eastern Poland as the Russian 6th and 20th armies push forward to seal the Suwalki Gap, while NATO rushes forces into the area, spearheaded by the Allied Rapid Reaction Corps, and followed up by whatever nation's troops respond to the Article 5 declaration. The question is, can NATO stop the Russians, or will Poland be overrun while Russia presents the world with a fait accompli? A game turn is generally composed of weather determination, initiative determination, and air phase, special operations phases, strike phases, arrival of reinforcements and replacements, victory determination, and then it says combat resolution examines not only unit strengths, but also unit efficiency, representing training, doctrine, and morale, as well as the terrain where the combat takes place. The CRT tends to be very bloody in nature, reflecting what we believe will be a degree of attritional warfare early due to the lethality of modern weapons. As in many games, casualties represent not only actual combat losses, but also losses of unit cohesion brought about by the rapid pace with which modern armies are able to engage and exploit on the battlefield. And there are some examples of the game counters you're going to get in the game. And the game contents, it says 122 by 34 inch 4-color one-sided map, 122 by 34 4-color one-sided strategic display, 4 counter sheets, 1 standard and advanced series rulebook, 1 game-specific rulebook, 2 identical CRT tech player aid cards, 1 standard and advanced game player aid card, 1 advanced sequence of play card, 1 standard sequence of play card, 1 NATO and US setup and reinforcement card, 2 identical advanced game table cards, and 1 10-sided die. The units are brigade, regiment, and battalion scale, players 1 to 2, ages 14 and up. Each game turn represents 3 to 5 days, and the map scale is 7.5 miles per hex. And it is rated as 7 on the solitaire suitability scale. I'd definitely say it's a 7 to a 9. Complexity for the standard game is 5, and for the advanced game is an 8. This is definitely not a simple system. There's a lot of moving parts. So this is something you're going to have to spend a little bit of time with and invest a little bit of effort to learn. It is well worth it, though, from my experiences so far with India, Pakistan. So let's take a look inside the box and see what you get. First thing you get is a letter from Deb. Thanks, Deb. She put my game together. I've gotten a few of the games from GMT that were packed by Deb. We've got our game-specific rules, standard and advanced series rules. We've got our counter sheets, our setup cards, and our maps. So let's set these maps up and we'll take a look at everything else afterwards. Oh yeah, I forgot. And the 1d10. Okay, so the first map we're going to look at is the strategic display. This is going to have all of the Baltic states, as well as a bunch of different tables here for your sub-threats, your AAA, AWACS advantage, weather track, air superiority, your air superiority missions, and then the different aircraft that have flown, the different sorties that have flown. You've got surrendered units, you've got a ton of boxes here. It's a very informative and busy map with everything that you need right here at your fingertips. Naval unit ADF values, air unit and helicopter replacements, naval detection, victory points down here, and up in the top is your steps that you'll go through for each of the turns. And that is a look at the display here. Now next I'm going to show you the map itself. And this is the game map proper for Next War Poland. This is majority of the area is Poland. There is some area up north for Kaliningrad, for Russia, Lithuania, and then Belarus on the very far eastern edge of the map. But it goes as far south as Warsaw, and up north it goes to Stupsk, and down here on the left to Poznan. So that is gives you an idea of the breadth and scope of the map of Poland that you'll be fighting on. It's a nice quality map. You've got all your major arteries and roads laid out for you, very easy to pick out. Forests, you've got mountains, your cities, everything that you'll need to understand what terrain you're going to be battling on without it being overdone. So well done by GMT. And we'll take a look now at the counter sheets. You get 4 of them in the game, and here are the different units that you're going to have and the different nationalities, as well as some admin counters. And we've got our US and Russian units, some more air units, and a bunch of admin counters. And a word of note here, this is something I screwed up when I first got India, Pakistan. Don't do what I did. Don't be Mo. There are bridge destroyed markers that you cut out on the tree here. What I did was I just completely didn't pay attention to them, and I just threw them out, and then found out afterwards, oh yeah, you could actually cut those out and use those little bits to show where the bridges are destroyed on the map. Makes it easier because you don't want to have a big counter and clutter up. You've got enough counters already on the map. You can use these little bits to show that those are the destroyed maps. And we'll take a look now at the player aids, because you get a ton of player aids in this game. You've got your NATO and US setup that shows how everything gets set up on the map, US reinforcement schedule and NATO reinforcement schedule, your standard sequence of play, and then the advanced game air defense resolution. I'm going to come back to this in a moment to explain something about the game. Standard and advanced game tables, and then your terrain effects chart and your CRT. There's a second one, and then you have your advanced sequence of play. And you can see there's quite a bit of steps to go through for the advanced sequence of play. Your Special Operations Forces CRT, so a bunch more tables in here. Your Advanced Air Combat, Advanced ADF, Advanced Strike, Advanced Detection, and Advanced Interdiction, Electronic Detection, Deliberate Damage, Automatic Victory, Emergency Supply, Collateral Damage, and Repair. What I really like about this game, what really intrigued me about it and excited me about it when I first played it, was the game does walk you through, each scenario walks you through ramping up the difficulty, adding more rules. But once you get into the movement, you have the initiative movement segment, initiative combat segment, elite reaction move, and exploitation movement. And then you have exploitation combat and reaction movement and reaction combat. So it's not like one side moves all their units and then fights, and then the other side moves and fights. It's not like that. There's actually reaction based on the unit quality. So if you have elite reaction or elite units, they have a reaction and they can do something about it. They can get in place to try to cut off an avenue of approach, or make it much more difficult for the attacking player to get as far along the map as they want. And I really like that. Then you have exploitation movement, which is where the initiative player performs exploitation movement. Any units not in an enemy ZOC may move up to their full movement allowance. Air, mobile, and sea movement transport are allowed. Then you have exploitation combat segment, and then what happens is as you move your exploitation move, you can also combat again. So it's really very dynamic the way it feels in this. It's not your standard move, fight. It really does feel like you're in the midst of a very fast-paced and rapidly changing combat environment, and I really dig that quite a bit. And then, of course, taking over cities is not easy. You have to clear them too. So that's another bit that I really was liking about this game. The standard series rules go from page 2 to 21. I can tell you right now, if you play just the standard series rules, you're playing a really damn good game. You really are. You can really ramp it up once you get to the advanced series because it does expand quite a bit on there's things that are abstracted in the standard series that get further fleshed out, and you run through them in the advanced series, the advanced rules. You've got your unit identification chart, and this explains all the different types of units that are available, and then your breakdown of the counter and what everything means here. And you've got your stacking value, because stacking is done by stacking points. And then the efficiency rating I was talking about for exploitation and elite reaction, all that stuff, that's over here on the right. The glossary here of all the different acronyms in the game. Explanation of weather, air power, initiative, sea control and naval rules, naval mine warfare, submarine threat level, naval units, movement, as we were talking about a moment ago, stacking limits. There's mine clearing, mine marker area effects for naval mine warfare, the extent of ZOCs and ZOC effects and the requirements to maintain a ZOC, terrain and how that affects movement and combat. And then we've got bridge damage and repair. Remember, don't lose those trees. You got to cut those little bits out. Then you have the clearing operations that I was talking about. You pull basically a counter from a cup. It's a chip pull, and that randomly tells you what the resistance level is in the city. That means that, even though you've taken a city, you have not necessarily taken it because you have to clear out the resistance that's in a city. I really dig that. Then you have your movement types: air transport, ground movement, air mobile movement, marine air mobile movement, contested sea movement, sea transport. Then you get into the combat procedure, how that all works to determine your odds ratios, ADF, combat support allocation, how you allocate losses, multiple hex combat, die roll modifiers, light infantry, special unit attacks, mixed nationality attacks, because remember, you're going to be dealing with NATO, and most of these games will have an additional, if one or multiple nations that are going to be coming in on one side or the other, and that's how you have to deal with these mixed nationality attacks. There are game-specific rules that may dictate DRMs that affect those attacks by multiple nationalities. We got reinforcements and reemplacements, victory, and then optional rules. And now we get into the advanced game series rules. And this is where things, like I said, ramp it up quite a bit. You have advanced movement rules, advanced naval rules, headquarter combat capabilities, air defense DRMs, chemical weapons, headquarter bridges, supreme headquarters, step losses and elimination, supply points and depots, emergency resupplies, isolation, if you can isolate units, and how isolation affects the unit, and then how you end up in surrender, special operations forces, detection, and it says here, in the advanced game, ground targets must be detected before they can be attacked by a strike mission. Theater weapon strikes, headquarter strikes, helicopter or air strikes, weather effects, air power, air superiority combat, air to ground missions, resolving strikes, hardened targets, resolving combat support missions, air defenses, and there's multiple levels of air defenses, movement and transport theater weapons, hits and damage, naval units and sea transports, detection, SAM, AAA tracks, beachheads, UN resolutions. This is an interesting aspect too. It says here, design note, Mark Herman has graciously allowed us to use a version of his UN resolution mechanics from Flashpoint Golan. During the initiative phase, one player makes a UN resolution roll to determine whether or not the United Nations will take action to force a halt to hostilities. Roll one die, add any applicable modifier due to the International Posture Matrix, which is in the game-specific rules. If the result is 10 or greater, then the UN has passed a resolution demanding that the warring parties accept a ceasefire that will go into effect during the victory determination step that turn. Both sides get one turn to improve their position vis-a-vis the victory point difference. And then you also have vetoes and refusing to obey a UN ceasefire. And then there are some advanced rules for alternate play, such as jettisoning ordnance, strike missions, air power, fog of war, collateral damage, so on and so forth, and an index, which is greatly appreciated in a game like this because, as you see, this is pretty dense. The rules are pretty dense in this game. Then you have your game-specific rules, which it adds an additional 31 pages of rules. So overall, between the advanced, if you're going to play the advanced rules, all the way through the advanced rules and the game-specific, you're looking at 75 pages of rules. So as you see, not a simple 5-6 page game to throw down on the table and knock out in an hour, but well worth the time invested, is my opinion of the Next War series. And it shows here the nationality colors in this game. You're going to have Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Lithuania, Spain, NATO shared units, UK, Air Force, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, Russia and Belarus will be the non-allied units. These are all allied units. Canada, Estonia, Germany, Latvia, Poland, Sweden, Netherlands, U.S. Army, and U.S. Marine Corps. So quite a good array of units. There are some new naval counters, terrain, and this is specific to the game rules. Now, there are your standard and advanced game rules. You have your game-specific rules, which supersede those that are the series rules. So you got installations, hardened targets, friendly map edges, airborne units, artillery fire support, artillery strikes, NATO formations and how those are handled, Marine Corps Task Force, movement and naval affairs, holding boxes, SOF missions, strategic display, how that works, land area control. And then you have supply and isolation, reinforcements, replacements, theater warfare assets. In the theater warfare assets, you have cruise missiles, and only the Russian cruise missile marker can be targeted for sight busting, SSMs, ballistic missiles, and tactical nuclear weapons. There are UN resolution optional rules. You've got NATO readiness, additional wild weasels, chemical weapons, Article 5 trumped, Aegis ashore, pre-positioned equipment, and then you have stealth air unit replacements, ready escorts, and then your scenarios start here on page 17. So actually, of the 31 pages, I was incorrect in that. It's not 31. It's just an additional 16, 17 pages before from the base game. So you're looking at 61 pages. The rest of them are scenarios. You have your scenarios that start with the basic game. So this gets you, your feet wet, and then you build up each time you go through these. And then you get into the advanced scenarios where things will step up quite a bit. It goes all the way up through extended buildup, and then order of battle notes, supplement 1 rules, and designer's notes. That is a look at everything that you get inside of Next War Poland from GMT Games. Like I said, if you are into modern warfare, this is definitely a series I strongly recommend you take a look at. This one is kind of is instant classic for me, and I think I'm going to be really enjoying these games for many years to come. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.